Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Great. You must be wondering what a product marketing person is doing in sales enablement. How many of you are in product marketing? And how many of you are in sales enablement? Okay, it's almost 50-50. Great. I think, so hopefully there'll be good outcome of this. So my name is Sridhar Karnam. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Sumo Logic. We're a cloud security company. And I've also worked at Oracle, HP, Arctic Wolf, Adept Robotics, and so on and so forth. So I'm very, very excited to be here. And I'm looking forward to kick off the sales enablement track here. And just to give you a brief background about me and as to why you should listen to this talk. I've been a sales guy for 5 years. I've done pretty much every role in terms of I've been an ISR, I've been a field rep, I've been an SC, and then in the last 10 years I've been doing product marketing. So today what I'm going to talk about is seller persona. I did a lot of Google search before preparing for this session, and I'm happy to see that there not have been many researches or things written about or done from a seller persona. The only web page that I saw was things like the aggressive sales guy or something like that, where it talks about the behavior of the salesperson but not the actual personas. So hopefully this is helpful. I'm trying to figure out next. Got it. So the three key takeaways for this would be to figure out what is a seller persona, why do we need it, and then talk about how to build it and how to use it. So just focused on just one thing, which is seller persona. How do we build it and how do we use it? So in terms of the seller personas itself, right? So let's see what we already know. Let's start from the buyer personas, right? So we've all been trained, pragmatic, certified. We've gone crazy, read TuneIn few times before all the job interviews. And every time, and we've done decent amount of work in terms of the buyer persona interviews. In fact, there are companies that I've worked and I've seen where people have gone crazy in terms of creating the caricatures of the buyer personas, put it on the pillars and the walls. There are other companies that have used buyer personas to actually be the center of everything they do. Even the product management, sales, marketing, everyone uses the same buyer personas in terms of building a feature and mapping it to a persona, and if it doesn't map, then there's no need to build, and so on and so forth. So I think we kind of get it on buyer personas, and we almost have no respect for the product people who don't value the buyer personas. So I think that train has passed, and so this is a similar concept. This is about understanding your seller personas. I think in the previous general session, I saw that about roughly 30% were in the late stage public companies and roughly 30% were in mid-stage companies. So what it means is you might be working in a company where there are 10,000 sales guys with varied across. So it definitely matters that you understand your seller personas. I've also worked at a company where I had 2 ISRs and 4 SDRs, and even then, understanding these seller personas, their strengths, their weaknesses, and sort of labeling them actually helped even in those small companies. So when I gave the pitch, typically when you write the sales pitch and give it to the sales guys, give it to the best sales guy, Dwight Schrute. So this is what he has to say. So so as Dwight Schrute would say, fact. So So this is not only based on some of the research reports that I've read, but also anecdotally. In Oracle, I was responsible for working in a group that built the Center of Excellence for Product Marketing, where my primary role was to understand the inside sales organization and create Center of Excellence there. Oracle is a huge company with 45,000 salespeople, and it was, and then we had over 4,000 collateral. So we've done a ton of research, analysis, and try to understand in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And I worked also with HP, where we've gone from producing about 1,500 sales plays into 10. And during that process, we understood what works and what doesn't work. So I've been fortunate to work in companies during those transition times. And it is true that 90% of what we build as product marketing, sales just have no use for it. It's just completely not useful. And I think we can borrow a lesson or two from game theory. I think we've all seen these YouTube videos from Simon, right? So he talks about game theory, finite, infinite player, and as a leader you need to be an infinite player, and all those things. So every time I watch that YouTube video, I get pumped up. The moment the video ends, I just don't understand what does an infinite player actually mean. Like, how do I become an infinite player, and so on and so forth. So I did my own little research and tried to understand, read few articles from a psychology perspective, and all those things. So my interpretation of some of these things were that, so the game theory is a mathematical model that can be used in psychology, selling, and content strategy. So very specifically with respect to the sales and sales enablement, in sales, if a seller can anticipate what the customer will do, then they can alter the action and increase the chances of the outcome. So there is a possibility of it. So how many of you understand the finite infinite game theory? Oh, okay, great. So not too many people have watched YouTube videos. You guys, so you guys actually work at office. Okay, so let me give a brief 2-minute story on the finite and infinite. So game theory, it was basically designed to understand the zero-sum game, when if one person gains something, the other person has to lose something. So over the last few decades, there's been a lot more study done, and then there's 2 basic principles within the game theory. One is the finite game theory, and the other one is the infinite. So in the finite game, it's a known rule, known game, known number of players. I think baseball is a great example. 2 teams, known players, known rules, and there is an outcome. There's a winner and there is a loser, right? So the fundamental principles of a finite game theory is that you play to win. You always play to win, and there is a winner and a loser. So on the other side, from an infinite game theory perspective, there are unknown number of players. There are unknown rules. The rules can change anytime, and it's not a fair game, so you can't complain. And then the bottom line of the infinite game theory is that you play to just survive, or you play to play. You don't play to win. And most of the examples they give in the infinite is the Cold War or Vietnam War, where US wanted to go and fight, but Vietnam wanted to survive, so and so on and so forth. So but the better example would be, think of the Gladiator, right? When where the warriors get into the Colosseum, and there is a lion sitting waiting to eat the warrior. And if the warrior kills the lion, it doesn't mean that the warrior wins. There'll be more lions or more warriors to come and hunt him down. So basically, the warrior has to keep on playing the game just to survive. It's very unfair, but that's what it is. And in reality, a lot of things are those falls under those infinite game theory. So understanding this principle actually helps you in terms of understanding the psychology of your customer behaviors, your sales guys, and what should be your content strategy. I think from my point of view, so let's think about another another game where you can relate to some of these things, right? So there's a blackjack and there's a chess. So blackjack is an infinite game theory where the rules are followed by only one person, which is the dealer, but everyone else is not following any rules. They just they can continue to play, increase their bet, or just fold. Whereas in the chess, it's a finite game and it's very strategic, and the move that you make now, you're already thinking about 2 to 3 moves ahead. And so if you think about these two, I think if you want to coach someone on chess, you don't teach them on winning at first, right? So you go in steps. So you teach them the rules, then you teach them how to actually play, then tips and tricks, and then the techniques to actually beat beat the opponent. So that is the same principle to apply in terms of the sales players or sales enablement. So understand your sales guys, know whether they're finite players or infinite players, and then create a curriculum in terms of understanding whether you want to move ahead with how do you want to enable them to understand and play the chess, right? So going back and connecting to our 90%, like why is that 90%? Why is the content that the marketing or the product marketing build is totally useless? So for the simple reason that I have personally been able to tag about 57 pieces of collateral that a product marketing can build on a single sales play or a product. You can vary anything from elevator pitch to sales guide to an infographic to so on and so forth, but ultimately it's the overwhelming volume and quantity of the information that we throw at the sales guys. They just can't keep up with this, and that's why this is one of the reasons why it fails, right? That's because we're not understanding. We're giving our sales pitch to Dwight Schrute and asking him to sell everything, but that's not how it works, because we're not understanding Dwight Schrute in detail. I mean, of course, it's a different thing that we do not want to understand him, but let's understand the sales guy. So we also know that it takes about roughly 2.5 years. I mean, the tenure of a sales guy, whether it's an ISR or an AE, is roughly about 2.5 years. It takes about 3 months to enable the inside sales reps, and it takes about 4.5 months to enable a sales rep. But to actually get a value out of the sales guy, it takes about roughly 10 months. So I'm just trying to build a case that this is really, really important for us to understand and go deep in understanding scientifically what should be our strategy in creating this, right? And one of the reasons why this is also important is that almost 87% of the customers in a survey has complained that sales guys just don't get it. I mean, how many times have you gone to buying cars, car dealership or anywhere, and then the sales guy is just trying to sell you what he or she was supposed to sell because they didn't just care about what was your need, right? So I think the same happens whether you're selling a cloud security or to CMO or anyone. We just want to keep talking about our product like it's the next best thing, but it doesn't work that way. So next, let's talk about building seller personas. So let's begin with the end in mind, right? So as Stephen Covey said, like, what is the outcome of the seller persona, so that we can go out and then work backwards in terms of building the seller personas. So ideally what we would want is to just that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is your stages. So the reason why the fonts are so small and you're getting frustrated because you can't read it is this is not supposed to be like a template, but this is more of a sample of the work that I've done in the past, And what is more important is the x-axis and the y-axis. So if you look at the y-axis, like you start with your customer's journey, your sales journey, then customer's journey, then different stages you have, different sellers you have. Each of them have different goals. Let me just talk through this for about 30 seconds. An SDR has a goal which is different from an ISR or an SE, right? So they have different goals. Their compensation is different. And if you understand in terms of what is your entire sales cycle and how is your SDR compensated, they're only compensated if they convert from an MQL to an SQL, or maybe converting or accepting a lead, to be even more generic, or sometimes they might be just getting compensated. All they have to do is set up a meeting. So if the goal of an SDR is to set up a meeting, and I walk into my SDR enablement training and talk about how awesome is the next gen clouds, the cloud security solution that can change the world, he doesn't care or she doesn't care, because all they want to know is what can I, who do I ping, what can I say, and how can I set up a meeting so that my ISRs or AEs can go and close the deal. So that's one example. So it's better to understand their goals, the way they're compensated, their motivations, their desired outcomes, and then as product marketing we can decide on what should be the external BOM and internal BOM. And so we're going to talk about many of them individually, especially also BOM and other things. So let's just dig deep into it. But I just wanted to start off by saying this should be the end goal. The end goal is one single slide for an entire sales player, a product or a portfolio that talks about how it is. And then so the personas that we're talking about now are the SDRs, the ISRs, the SEs, the AEs, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to build now. Before we build these seller personas, one thing that I've seen my team miss the mark in all the companies is that we always try to think, this is going back to the buyer personas, we always think that the buyer persona, we either focus on the buyer persona or the seller persona. We forget that it's the cohorts that we have to actually consider. Like say for instance, I've been doing, so in my cloud security world for enterprises, most of my team members love to create these battle cards and content and all those things for the buyer persona, which is a CISO or a chief security officer, or for the user persona, which is a security analyst or an engineer. But then what happens when you look at the customer's buyer's journey, it's the cohort, right? There is an average of at least 7 people that get involved. So typically what happens is a CIO is coming back from a vacation in Hawaii, opens an in-flight magazine that says, that talks about how you should move security to the cloud first, and that's a great thing. And all he does is takes a picture, sends it to his chief security officer, and that's the trigger, right? We never thought about it. Or someone is trying to renew their support contract, and that's a trigger to look at, hey, does it make sense to look at cloud solution over an on-prem solution as an example. So we don't look at some of those things. So the trigger is not because that we are creating the need, but either their appliances run out of the support, or it's a support renewal contracts, or a CIO found some cool stuff on an in-flight magazine, or CISO wanted to go to the board meeting, and then he or she wanted to present some new concept. So that's the trigger. So when that happens, the CISO tells the director goes to the security engineer downloads my awesome free trial that I've put so much effort into, and then this guy in jeans goes back to the guy in suits and then says, I like it, I think you should buy it. And then the guy in suits talked to someone whom I did not think. He calls up Gartner and says, hey, who should it bring? Hey, have you evaluated another competitor? And then the whole cycle starts again, and then he goes back to Gartner. The Gartner says, I think your first trial was good enough, it fits your solution. And then he goes to the CIO, and the CIO says, hey, does it fit in our overall architectural strategy? And then you have to go back to and then the CISO has to go back to the architect, and then the architect says, yeah, I think it fits in. And then he goes to the CFO to get the approval. See, I mean, we never enabled either the sales guys or our entire value delivery chain in terms of all these people who are involved. And even on our website, we don't have any of this information. We never have a security content for a non-security person. So if a CIO opens, say, my beautifully laid out data sheet, he can't get a head or tail out of it because we're just talking jargons after jargons, and it doesn't even make sense. So I think that's why it's important for us to understand these cohorts before we start making some of these content, right? So let's look at the sample. Again, my goal was to not tell you that this is a template, download it and use it, but this is what I found at one of the companies that I work for. And then it's the amount of details I found by doing this. So I'll give you some anecdotal story. So this is a buyer persona of an SDR. The top is cut off. So the way we did is me and my team. So I think we interviewed a bunch of sales guys. I sat down personally with a bunch of SDRs, ISRs, SCs. I interviewed the top 5 and the bottom 5. We asked them the same question, put the answers in an Excel sheet so we can do some pattern analysis, and we looked at their behaviors for a number of times, the tools they use. We asked them a bunch of questions on what are the sales plays that they're being very effective, what sales plays they don't like. So sounds very familiar and sounds exactly like a buyer persona, right? So typically what I found is that this is an SDR is a 25-year-old, 60% women, 40% men. I think BABS with 1 to 2 years of experience and all those things. Those are fine. So that's not a good piece of information that me as a product marketing lead can use. But some of the things that was shocking, I was actually sitting at the back of a bunch of enablement trainings, and when I saw all the 25 computers from the last bench, one of the things that shocked me is that every single person, 100% of the people used OneNote for taking notes. Maybe that's a thing. That's a thing that with millennials. I mean, I didn't know. I'm a millennial, but late stage. They're in early stages. So every single person used OneNote for taking notes. And me and my team were spending huge volume of time in creating Word documents, converting into PDF, massaging it, making it look good, or PPTs and uploading. So it was if I want to stand out, if you work for a large company and you want your sales player to stand out, all you had to do was create a basic FAQ on a OneNote, send it to them via email so that they can just plug into their OneNotes and use it, right? This was, and at Oracle, as I said, there were like thousands of sales plays, and for you to get even noticed, it's different. And the same thing with Arctic Wolf. Two sales guys, and then 4 inside sales, and all the 4 SDRs were also using OneNote. So I didn't have to start figuring out what should be the template, blah blah blah. It was just a simple FAQ on a OneNote and plug it in. So that was my learning. Second thing is email person. I learned that there is a new person called campaign manager in my organization, and I didn't know that person existed at all. And then all the SDRs and all the ISRs loved that person to death. Like every PMM and PM send a bunch of emails and they don't read. And when I asked them, what are the 2 emails that you read the most? And they said one is from the manager. So I learned that if you want to train someone, you have to send emails to their RDs and ask RDs, regional directors or managers, sales managers, basically to send emails to their team, and that's the email that gets read, which is good for me to know. And the second is that they read emails from campaign managers because they just have too many PMM emails that they just can't keep track of it, which is great, right? So I think those were some of the things I wanted to know. From an ISR perspective, it's the same. So it's typically these guys are committed to sales. So SDRs, they don't know if they want to be in sales or not. Fresh out of college, 2 years, and they're still figuring out a lot of things. These guys are committed to sales for now, and then they want to make more money and so on and so forth. So another thing that I learned is that the number one tool for them is an SE. And this was a shocker. As a product marketing person, SE is not even my customer. Mostly I catered my collateral and documentation and enablement trainings to the SDRs and ISRs and AEs. But what I found out from these buyer persona interviews, these seller persona interviews, is that the SE is at the core of everything. So SE decides the campaigns, the call blitzes, the SE makes the presentation, and so on and so forth. So this was all great information. So now we started figuring out, we never did messaging to the SE also. So most of the SE enablement training was done by the PMs, and we have highly, in some of the companies that I worked with, the PMs were highly technical, so they don't talk about messaging big picture, so they just go straight onto their product, talk about feature by feature, death by PowerPoint, and that's how some of the things happen. So I think the lesson that I learned from this is that whether you're a small company or a big company, you definitely need to build the seller persona, and this can open up eyes for you in ways that you don't think. Like say, I was also a product manager for 2 years, and I had very high pressure of showing revenue on my product, and my product in a large organization is mostly a checkbox, and I can't show good high revenue. So one of the things I did is that I knew some of these triggers based on the seller personas. I contacted a bunch of the top 25 sales guys across the global region, and I knew that May was the month where we do most of the ELA reviews or renewals, and I told them that cloud security is very important. Instead of allocate in your ELA, the annual contract, allocate more money for the security so that the customer feels that they're getting more value from our company than others. And when so this was not enablement, this was nothing, it was just understanding the sales, their behavior, and this helped me overshoot my revenue, and we actually didn't sell anything. This was just a bundle. So there are ways in which you can get a lot of value, all those things. So those are some of the ways you can use those seller personas. So the first and the foremost is to create a bomb. Sorry, I don't know why all these presentations are getting cut. Maybe I didn't format well, but we're talking about a bill of materials. I think instead of having 57 different documents and then making custom documents, stick to 4 to 6 standard document. Think about sales plays very strongly. Product is not a good way for sales guys to consume information. They just don't get it. Because if you just talk about product, then you're only talking about features and comparison and how we are better than somebody else. It doesn't matter. I think the sales guys need sales plays. They need trigger. They need to know when things happen, what's the sequence, when they should call, and so on and so forth. So figure out what are the bombs you need. And so sales plays are good for inside, and product is good for SEs, and industry is good for the AEs, and something around those lines. So those are some of the good things to follow. And then 80% of the sales happens when there is a good follow-up, and half the people don't. So when you tell the sales guy to follow up, he or she will simply call 16 times, and that's what Dwight Schrute does, and that's not a good way to, again, follow up on those things, right? So one of the things I've learned at Sumo Logic, which is my recent company, is the sequence. I always knew about Marketo, Eloqua, email nurture, and all those things, but I never knew that you could create sequences for your outbound sales guys. There are companies doing that. Look into those. And you can create all these things on a simple Excel sheet. You can create a bunch of emails, bunch of high-level assets, videos, and give it to your sales guys, align it with your email nurture tracks, and that's how you build this whole process. So, again, and the last thing is about continuous training. And for continuous training, think about innovative ways. This is some of the innovative ways that we did, which is, it's about, think about all the innovative ways that you can reach out to your sales guys, which means, if you need to put a booth there, you have to act like you're selling it to the customer. So do whatever it takes, videos, engage them, spiffs, just keep them warm and interactive. So to conclude, sales personas are very, very critical. It can really help you sell better. And we just went through how to build and how to use them. So with that, I'll close my presentation. Thank you very much.
So do you want to take some questions? Are there any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. No questions?
Because I have a couple.
Yeah, please.
One thing I like, my background has always been just enterprise sales, so marketing people generally make me fairly nervous. But what I do like about what you're saying and kind of called out in my mind is when we're talking to salespeople, I think the personas are important. Because even when you're selling to a customer, a lot of times it's just simply show me you know me. If you can show me you know me, then I'm willing to have a conversation. If you can't, I'm not willing to have a conversation. And I do think that marketing, a lot of times from a sales perspective, is somebody that wants something from me and is going to potentially waste my time. So as they can see the thought processes behind it, how much do you kind of expose that process to the sellers as an effort to show them that you're culling through the information and that they can see that it's well thought through and it's valuable for them, and it's not just another kind of marketing, kind of vomit session where I'm just throwing everything that I want you to do out there. How do you kind of engage with them and let them see that you're sort of in the trenches with them?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, I didn't cover this because I thought this was detailed. So in the conversation between the finite player and the infinite player, so this is how you take. So finite training is about doing. So one of the things I did is doing this 101, 201, 301 trainings. So 101 is nothing to do with, say, my company or my product. It is about the market. And then 201 is about the basic sales pitch and some other market expectations. And then 301 is completely about product or differentiations or unique capabilities and so on and so forth. And then I'll also give them a slide with 20 words and then say, if you Google or Wikipedia on these 20 words and understand, plus these 5 sales pitches from our competition, go listen to them, watch their webinars. And this is not something I push onto them, so this is something they do on their own, so that they, and by product, as a product marketing person, when I show them that these are the ways they can actually help themselves, I think they also feel that I'm a credible source that they can tap me into deals.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Questions? I think we're good. Thank you, Sridhar.
Great. Thanks. Thank you.